How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed, Daf 35 of Masechet the Sanhedrin. Friends, your friends. Okay. Today's Daf is alright. It's interesting. I can't tell you if it's going to be hard or not. The first part of the Daf I think isn't so hard, but then it gets into like it's a lot of Kal V'chomer kind of stuff, but so it's not like super hard and it's not super long either, but anywho. Alright, we're gonna start in Daf Lamed Dalet with Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Dinei Nefashis done in Bayim v'chule. So Dinei Nefashis, we start during the day and we end during the day. How do we know this Indian? The pasuk says that this was wait, what? Where was this? This was after the Baal Peor people, so they like hanged them up neged hashemesh, by the sun. So it means that it was light out during the day. And since they're hanged, that means that they must have been tried, because you go straight from the courtroom to the execution spot. How do we know that hoikaya is tliya? Right? Everybody's walking around with the hoka shoes. Hoka means to hang. It says that the Gaonim demanded that the sons of Saul be killed, and then they hanged them up in Givashol Bechir Hashem Uchsiv Atikach Ritzba Bas Aya Esasak Vatateu La El Hatzur Batchilis Katzir. Okay, and Ritzba Bas Aya went and she made a place for herself, and she sat there until the rains came, which means that they were exposed to the elements, that they were hanged up. So Vokainu means to hang. Uchsiv says Vayom Hashem Moshe. The Eibishter says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Kach is called Rosh Ha'om. Take all the heads of the nation. What does the pasuk say? Take all the heads of the nation and hang them up. I don't understand. If the people are the ones that sinned, why are the leaders the ones being hanged? What the Eibishter says to Moshe Rabbeinu is no, what it means is get all the leaders, and they're all going to set up lots and lots and lots of courts. My timer. How come if they set up so many courts? If it's because, each court is only has the capacity to judge one case per day. Rav Chizda says, so that's only if you're talking about two different crimes that have two different punishments. But in the case like this, where they're all just being tried for the same sin, the sin of Baal Peor, you would be able to have multiple cases per day. No, the point of all of the Batidinim was to make it clear to the Rebbeinu Shalom that we're taking this seriously, and that the whole nation is preoccupied with the task of bringing to justice those instigators, those getchke participators. And the Eibishter is going to see that we're taking this seriously. We're setting up lots of Batidinim, killing lots of people. Alright. Oh, I still have a little bit cold. I don't know if you can hear that. I mean, it should be pretty obvious. Dini Mammon is coming bebayim v'chulei. Oh, okay. So we say, okay, Dini Mammon is, you could finish that day. Dini Nefashis, however, it depends. If he's innocent, so yeah, you could give that innocent verdict that day. However, if he's guilty, so then you wait until the next day, and you wrap up the next day. How do we know this? Amr Chanino, the Amr Kal, the Pasuk says, Melesi Mishpat, and I guess I'm filled with justice, Tzedek Yolinba. And the proper way to do things is that if it's a guilty verdict, Yolinba, that you have to let it, sleep on it overnight. But nowadays they're not doing that. They're killing people, guilty people, without sleeping on it, without waiting till the next day. And now they're basically just killing people improperly. They're murderers. Rava says from here, Ishru Chamotz. what you need to do is chametz, to issue dayin shemechametz es dino, that it's good for a judge to sort of delay the verdict, i.e., to let it wait overnight. V'idach issue chametz velo chometz, and according to the opinion who learns it out from Malesi Mishpat Tzedek Yolim Bo V'atem Ratzchim. So this pasuk of Ishu Chamotz V'lo Chometz, what does Rashi say? Hachziko is a nigzal v'lo is a gozel. Right? Make sure to support the one who got robbed and not the one who is robbing. V'idach, and the one who learns it from Ishu Chamotz, Hai Malesi Mishpat My Ovidle Kidor Balazar Amr Byitzchok, that whenever there was a fast day, apparently the night of the fast day, they would I don't know what the word I'm thinking of is disseminate, what's it called when you distribute, I think is the word I'm thinking of. They would distribute all sorts of tzedakah, right? So it says, right, tzedek yolin, what was the pasuk? It says tzedek yolim, meaning they would give all sorts. They would. What was the word I just said? Distribute all sorts of tzedakah the night of the tunis, of the fast day. Kilu shoyfech damim, right? So the kol tanish malinin by tzedakah. If they don't distribute the tzedakah on the night of the fast day, so then it's as if they are murdering. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Meleasim mishpat tzedek v'gomer, and it says v'atem ratzchim. If you don't do that, then you are murders. That's only if what they would normally distribute was bread, dates, things that are ready to consume. If what they would give out is money, which isn't readily consumed, chite, wheat, visaire, barley, things that that are not immediately consumable, well then leislan butts, and then that's not a problem, because it's not like they would have been able to do anything immediately. Anywho, and therefore we do not judge capital cases on Erev Shabbos, on Erev Yom Tiv. My time, how come? Mishum delay efshir, because it's impossible. Heichi live, how can you judge a capital case on Erev Shabbos, on Erev Yom Tiv? Lidaini b'maile Shabso, v'ligmre lidine b'maile Shabso. What? Do you think, well, no problem, we'll just start the din on Erev Shabbos and we'll complete it ochit on Erev Shabbos. B'tilma chazu tam lechova, u'v'olim eber halon az din. Yeah, but what if the defendant, unfortunately, is guilty? Then you're going to have to wait till the next day. The next day is Shabbos. So, okay, but why don't you start the case on Friday and complete it on Shabbos? And if necessary, kill him on Shabbos. Misas Bezdin is nit Doiche Shabbos, so you can't do Misas Bezdin on Shabbos. So, okay, but how about this? Start the case on Friday. If he's guilty, then sleep on it Friday night. Complete the case on Shabbos. And if he turns out that he's taka guilty, so then Misas Bezdin will be Amoitzoi Shabbos. Neged Hashemesh Binun. Yeah, but it has to be opposite the sun. It has to be during the daytime. Okay, how about this? Start the case on Friday. If he's innocent, givaldik. If he's guilty, finish it the next day on Shabbos. If at the end of the day, if at the end of the case on Shabbos, the final verdict is that he's guilty, so then execute him on Motzei Shabbos. So then what is it? So then kill him on Sunday. Nimtza atamaina is dino. Yeah, but that's torture. It's a form of torture. If he knows that on Shabbos, already he knows that he's about to be capitally punished with execution. So to have him wait until the next day is unnecessary torture. Once he is convicted, we kill him as soon as possible. So nimtza atamaina is dino. So how about this? Why don't we start the case on Friday? And if most judges say he's guilty, so then everybody goes home for Shabbos. And then let it pick up again on Sunday. And so long as there isn't a final verdict of guilt, it's not torture. Minchu taimayu. Yeah, but people are already going to forget over Shabbos. There's too much of a break. You're going to lose the momentum. You're going to forget exactly and as we're about to see, not just what you were thinking on Friday, but also what you were feeling on Friday. Right? Even though, as we're going to learn in the Mishnah, within either tomorrow or the next day, that you have the two scribes of the court that are standing there and they're writing down everything. So you don't have to worry about forgetting the technical details because they will all be recorded. But nihita bepuma kasvin, sure, they're writing down what the people said. Libo de inche, but the person's heart is going to forget the heart. You're going to forget the feeling. You're going to forget the motive behind the words that were said. That momentum, that energy. You go home, you take a break, you have Shabbos, you have the Koros of the Shabbos Oneg, and you go to davening, and you have inspiration and friends and wine and this and that and the other thing. You come back Sunday morning, you're trying to figure out, you have to catch up again. Yeah, sure, you have everything written down, but the heart of the matter is going to be lost. It's going to be forgotten. Hilkach lo efshar, therefore it is impossible, and therefore you have to have a situation where you could start a case today, end it tomorrow. Although it is interesting to think about, what if there is no guarantee, because let's say you start the case on Thursday, okay? So you start the case on Thursday, and it looks like he's guilty. So they say, okay, we got to sleep on it. They come back Friday, and they're deliberating. And as we saw the other day, that we write down the divrei mechayvim, because if somebody changes his mind and says, you know what, I said guilty for this reason, but I changed my mind I don't think he's guilty for that reason. I think he's guilty for a new reason. So then you have to do Allah nasadin nocham. Also, there is a possibility that you're gonna have to do Allah nasadin twice. Maybe that's less common though. Aquaponim. Okay, where are we? Okay, fine. So now we get into lots of kal v'chomes. We had just said that Misas Bezdin is not Doiche Shabbos. We are now going to get into a long, a discussion for the rest of the daf, with lots of kal v'chomers that ultimately delves into this question of, is it true, in fact, that Misas Bezdin, that capital punishment, is not Doche the Holy Shabbos? Omer le Rosh Lakish Rabbi Yochanan says, Rosh Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan, v'tei kvuras meis mitzvah doiche Shabbos mikal v'chomer. I should say that the bearing of a meis mitzvah is doiche Shabbos. I should argue that it's doiche Shabbos, or I will argue that it's doiche Shabbos. A meis mitzvah, of course, is you're just walking around and you see, oy vavoy, there's a corpse, so you have to bury it. Right? A Jewish corpse, you have to bury it. So I assume it's specifically a Jewish corpse. So we learn this out. So we want to learn out from a Nazir, a Nazirite. It says in the pasuk by a Nazir, it says al nefesh meis lo yavu, that he cannot become Tmei Meis. As we know, we learned Masechta Nazir. It was a little bit of a difficult Masechta for me at least to really get into, because there wasn't Rashi. I was basically just reading from the Art Scroll, so I feel like I don't remember so much from Masechta Nazir. But anyways, a Nazir can't become Tmei Meis. We know that. And then it says an interesting thing. I'm reading it from the pasuk now, not from the Gemara. Le'aviv le'imo, what? Le'aviv ule'imo le'achiv ule'achoso lo yitam aloim b'mosim kinezer aloikav areishe. That it says, and he can't become tamei to his father, to his mother, to his brother, to his sister. It says nefesh meis lo yavu. He can't become tmei meis. Period. Mele, it includes his father, his mother, his brothers and sister. Why specify them? So we learn that, well, the aviv, right? It says, yeah, he can't become tamei to his father. That's true, but he can become tamei to meis mitzvah. That a nazir who encounters a meis mitzvah, he can become tamei to bury the meis mitzvah. Le'imo, to his mother he can't become tamei. But what if he is a kohen? If he is right, we said that a nazir can become tamei for meis mitzvah. But what if he's not just a nazir? He's ochit, a kohen. A kohen ochit doesn't become, right, has restrictions around becoming tamei. So if he's not just a nazir, but he's ochit, a kohen, we say le'imo, he doesn't become tamei to his mother, but he would, even in this case, become tamei to meis mitzvah. Why did I say le'achiv? Because if he wasn't just a kohen, he was a kohen gadol. A nazir who's ochit, a kohen gadol, So would he become Tamei to Meis Mitzvah? We say le'achiv, he doesn't become Tamei to his brother, but he would become Tamei to a Meis Mitzvah. Even a Nazir who's a Kohen Gadol. Why does it say la'achoso? Well, because if he wasn't just a Nazir, and he wasn't just a Kohen, a Nazir who's a Kohen, and not just a Nazir who's a Kohen Gadol, but he's a Nazir who's a Kohen Gadol who's going to offer a Korban Pesach, or do Bris Milah for his son, but I think specifically for Agamar, he's going to offer a Korban Pesach, to do Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. Still, if he sees a Meis Mitzvah, he becomes Tmei Meis to bury the Meis Mitzvah, and he does not offer his Korban Pesach in the Beis HaMikdash. So we see that Tmei Meis is even Docha Avodah. It's Docha Avodah. Tmei Meis is Docha Avodah. Meis Mitzvah is Docha Avodah. That the mitzvah, burying the Meis Mitzvah, is kilu higher kaze than the fact that this Nazir who's a Kohen Gadol was about to do Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash to offer a Korban Pesach. We say no. Don't do that. Instead, deal with the Meis Mitzvah. So we see that Meis Mitzvah is Docha Avodah, is a kilu. I don't know if the right way to say it, but it might be helpful for us just in terms of like the next Amud, because there's going to be a lot of Kavachomers. It's kilu higher, right? Meis Mitzvah is higher than Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, offering korbanos in the Beis HaMikdash. So again, it says the Gemara, Amar Yishlakish to Yechon, Yishlakish says to Yechon, v'tei kifuras Meis Mitzvah doiche Shabbos. So let's say that burying a Meis Mitzvah is doiche Shabbos. Why? Well, because Avodah is doiche Shabbos. You offer korbanos, right? Of course, we daven Musaf on Shabbos. We talked about the Korban Musaf, Korban Talmud, of course, doiche Shabbos. So, well, if Keilu Korbanos, in a sense, are higher than Shabbos, because you offer Korbanos even on Shabbos, they're Docha Shabbos, and Meis Mitzvah is higher than Korbanos, as we see that this Nazir, who's a Kohen Gadol, would become to Meis to bury the Meis Mitzvah rather than offer the Korban Pesach. So we see that Avodah, in a sense, is higher than Shabbos. Meis Mitzvah is higher than Avodah, so Memele, Meis Mitzvah should be higher than Shabbos. Okay. So therefore, Meis Mitzvah should be Doiche Shabbos. So again, for like the umpth time, Amar Shlakish Rab Yechon says, Shlakish Rab Yechon, v'tei kvuras Meis Mitzvah Doiche Shabbos. That Meis Mitzvah, which is higher than Avodah, and Avodah is higher than Shabbos, Meis Mitzvah should be higher than Shabbos, should be Doiche Shabbos. From a Kavachomer, ma Avodah should Doiche Shabbos. Well, if Korbanis are Doiche Shabbos, and yet Kvuras Meis Mitzvah Doche Osa, and the mitzvah of bearing a Meis Mitzvah is Doche Avodah, mi Ule Achoso, from the fact that it says Ule Achoso by a Nazir, Kizitani is willing to buy La'aviv, Ulimo, La'achiv, Ula'achoso, Matamalomer. Why does it say Ule Achoso? It's to teach that if he's a Nazir and a Kohen Gadol, and he was on his way to offer Korban Pesach, or he's on his way to do Bris Milah for his son, low mace, and he finds that a relative of his dies, no, he won't, right? No, you cannot become Tamei in that scenario. You can't become Tamei to a relative, or, but is it possible that just like he can't become Tamei to his sister, what about a Meis Mitzvah? Tamilomer ula'achoso. La'achoso, he doesn't become Tamei to his sister. Avamatame, the Meis Mitzvah. But he would become Tamei for a Meis Mitzvah. So a Meis Mitzvah overrides the fact that he was on his way to offer Korban Pesach. Meis Mitzvah is Doche Avodah, Avodah is Doche Shabbos, but mainly Meis Mitzvah is Doche Shabbos. So Shabbos, Shenidches, B'nei Avodah, Shabbos, which is on a lower level than Avodah, than Korbanos, and Korbanos are on a lower level than Meis Mitzvah, Eino Din, Shtei Kvuras Meis Mitzvah, Doche Osa. Certainly Meis Mitzvah should be Doche Shabbos. Okay, it's a little funny for me to talk about higher level and lower level, but I think it just makes it easier to understand Kavachomers. Kavachomers tend to be a little bit tricky, so this might just make it a little bit easier. So, Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan responds to Rish Lakish, Vitzicha Techiach. Well, I'll ask you a question. Says Rabbi Yochanan to Rish Lakish, I'll pose you the following question. What about Misas Bezdin. What about Misas Bezdin? Misas Bezdin, after all, as we're going to see in a second, is Doche Avoda. And as we know, Avoda is Doche Shabbos. And yet Misas Bezdin is not Doche Shabbos. Okay, so you can have something that's Doche Avoda and yet it's not Doche Shabbos. So therefore I can argue that even though yes, Meis Mitzvah is Doche Avoda, it's not Doche Shabbos. Again, Amalei Rabbi Yochanan says to Rish Lakish, Ritzicha Tochiach, that Misas Bezdin disproves your argument. Shedoche es Avoda, because Misas Bezdin is Doche Avoda, ve'eno Doche es Shabbos, but Misas Bezdin is not Doche Shabbos. Ritzicha Gufa Tidche es Shabbos Mikal V'chomer. But 1 second, let's say that Misas Bezdin should be Doche Shabbos for the same reason that Meis Mitzvah should be Doche Shabbos. Ma'avoda shedoche es Shabbos, Ritzicha Doche Osa, for exactly that reason. That if Avoda is Doche Shabbos, so Kilo Avoda is on a higher level, so to speak, than Shabbos, and Ritzicha, Misas Bezdin, is Doche Avoda, as we are about to demonstrate. And so therefore I should argue that Ritzicha, Kilo Misas Bezdin, should be Doche Shabbos. Shenemar, how do we know that Misas Bezdin is Doche Avoda? Shenemar me'im mizbechi tikochenu lamus. The pasuk says, if you have a kohen who's ochet a murderer, and he wants to do avoda in the Beis Hamikdash, we say, no, murderer, go to Bezdin, and if you're guilty, we're going to kill you. So we say, don't do the avoda, instead go to Bezdin, and if necessary, there will be Misas Bezdin. So we see that Misas Bezdin overrides and prevents avoda. So therefore, if Misas Bezdin is Doche Avoda, and Avoda is Doche Shabbos, so Memele Misas Bezdin should be Doche Shabbos. So Shabbos Shenitches Mipnei Avoda, Shabbos, which is on a lower level than Avoda, and Avoda is on a lower level than Misas Bezdin, Eino Din Shtei Ritzicha Doche Osa. Certainly then, Misas Bezdin should be on a higher level than Shabbos, and it should be Doche Shabbos. Okay, so right now we want to make the argument that so first of all, Rish Lakish made the argument to Rabbi Yochanan that Meis Mitzvah should be Doche Shabbos. Rabbi Yochanan responded, no, because that's a problem. That argument doesn't work because you can make the same argument for Misas Bezdin, and Misas Bezdin is not Doche Shabbos. To which we then say, wait, but let's actually say that Misas Bezdin is Doche Shabbos. So on my Rav says, Rav Kvar Poska Tana Devei Bishmo. No, you don't make that argument, because there's already a Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. The Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, we learn the Besmedrus of Rabbi Shmuel, the Sevaru Eish. The pasuk says, don't burn fire on Shabbos. Matamalom. Why does the pasuk have to say, don't burn fire on Shabbos? We already know. L'saisa kol melacha. Don't do melacha on Shabbos. Of course, that includes burning fire. So, why are you asking why it says Leisivaru Eish? It's a famous machlokes. We know either Rabbi Yossi, the Lav Yotzos, either Rabbi Nosson, the Chalek Yotzos. It's a famous machlokes. Havor the Lav Yotzos, Havor the Chalek Yotzos. Rabbi Yossi says that the reason why Havora, burning a fire, kindling a fire, is singled out is to say that, well, by the other malachas on Shabbos you chayiv skila, but Havora is just a Lav. We're going to whip you, which we'll learn about in the next Masechta that we will learn zusammen together, Masechta Makis. Reb Nosson says is l'chalek yotzos, that if you do many different unique avos malachis, you'd only be chayiv. So we're saying l'chalek yotzos, you would be chayiv a korban for each and every one of them, assuming that it was b'shogeg. So Kilu, why are you asking why it says lo sevaru eish? Kilu, it's a question that's already been asked before. It's a famous machlokes, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Nosson, the Chalek Yotzos, the Lav Yotzos. Kidetanya, as we learn in the Brayso, Havor, the Lav Yotzos, to Rabbi Yossi, says Rabbi Yossi that Havor is singled out to say that unlike the others which you chayiv skila for, Havor you chayiv makis. Rabbi Nosson says Rabbi Nosson, the Chalek Yotzos, it's to say that we specify this particular melacha, to say that just like you chayiv for this melacha, you chayiv for all melachas individually, and if you do lots of avos melachas in one mistake, you're going to be chayiv for each one of them. Elo, Rava rather says Rava Tana Meishavos Kashale. No, what Tana Dver Bishmal is asking is when it says L'Sivaru Eish B'chol Moshvo Seichem. Why does the pasuk have to say that that don't kindle a fire in wherever you are, whether you're in the United States, whether you're in Great Britain, whether you're in Eretz Yisrael, wherever you are, do not kindle fires on Shabbos. But I know that. Why did it say wherever you are? Moshavos matam lo, how come it says it? Michte Shabbos chovas agufi. At the end of the day, the chiyuv of Shabbos is it's not like Trumas Amaisis, it's not Shemitah, it's not Mitzvah Satuliyus Ba'aretz. It's something that's incumbent on each and every individual, regardless of where you are. It's upon you, not upon your location. A requirement of the body is global, regardless of where you are. So therefore, why does the pasuk need to say wherever you are? Of course, it's wherever you are. So Mishuma Bishmuel Amar Talmud Echad, a certain student said the name of Rabbi Shmuel, Lefi Shenemar, because the pasuk says Ki yeh ish chet mishpat mavis v'humos, because the pasuk says by Misas Bezdin, Shmei Ani bein b'chol ben b'Shabbos. So I might think that Misas Bezdin is whether it's during the week or on Shabbos. That Kilu Misas Bezdin could be Doiche Shabbos, as v'humos. It'll be killed. And it could even be on Shabbos. Right? We learned the whole Kavachomer to argue that Misas Bezdin should be Doiche Shabbos. But it says you can't be Mechal Shabbos. B'shar Malachos. Chutz mi Misas Bezdin. That's talking about the other Malachos. Don't do other Malachos. Misas Bezdin you can do, you can't do other Malachos. Afilu Misas Bezdin. Wait, or maybe I could argue that Misas Bezdin is not Doiche Shabbos. Umani Mekayim v'humos. Then what does it mean that there's Misas Bezdin? B'chol, during the week, Aval b'Shabbos, but not on Shabbos. But maybe it means even on Shabbos. Well, it says, don't burn fire b'chol moshvosechem. And it says, by Rashi says Parshas Rotzchem Ksiv Gabi Misas Bezdin, and it says by Misas Bezdin Vayu Eil Lachem Chugas Mishpat Dosim B'chol Mosh Vosechem. So it says Mosh Vosechem by Losevaru Eiz B'chol Mosh Vosechem. It also says Mosh Vosechem by Misas Bezdin by Moshavos Amar Lohalan Bezdin af Moshavos Amar Kan Bezdin by Machmana Losevaru Eiz B'chol Mosh Vosechem. So I guess when it says Misos, when it says Moshavos in both cases, I guess it's talking about Bezdin. Okay, I'm not really sure what that means. And it says to say be'etzem that just like Losevaru Eish is b'chol mosh v'seichem, also means as Bezdin is b'chol mosh v'seichem, and to say that just like Losevaru Eish, the lav of Havara, is shaykh. You can't kindle a flame on Shabbos. You also can't do Misas Bezdin on Shabbos. So there you have it. So you see, for the fact that it says Suvaru Eish B'chol Mosh Vosechem, and it also says by Misas Bezdin Mosh Vosechem, so it means that just like, of course, kindling a fire is not Doche Shabbos, so Misas Bezdin Ochit is not Doche Shabbos. So therefore we've established that Misas Bezdin is not Doche Shabbos. And therefore, Rish Lakish wanted to suggest that we should say Meis Mitzvah is Doche Shabbos. From the Kavachomer, Meis Mitzvah is Doche Avoda, Avoda is Doche Shabbos, Meis Mitzvah should be Doche Avoda. We say, well, technically you should be able to make the same argument for Misas Bezdin, that Misas Bezdin is Doche Avoda and Avoda is Doche Shabbos, so Misas Bezdin should be Doche Shabbos, and yet we see that Misas Bezdin is not Doche Shabbos. Omer Abaye, says Abaye, Hashto de Omart Ein Ritzicha Doche Shabbos. Okay, well now that we've said that Misas Bezdin is not Doche Shabbos, well then I'll make the Kal V'chomer Ein Ritzicha Doche Avoda Mikal V'chomer. I'll make a Kal V'chomer to argue that Misas Bezdin should not be Doche Avoda. Right? As we talked about earlier, if you have a kohen who's a murderer, or Ritzeach, and he goes to do the Avoda, we say, stop. We need to take you to Bezdin, and there may be Misas Bezdin, and Misas Bezdin therefore is Docha Avoda. But Abaye wants to argue that Misas Bezdin should not be Docha Avoda. Shabbos Shenitches Mipnei Avoda, because if Avoda is higher than Shabbos, it overrides Shabbos. Ein Ritzicha Doche Osa, and yet Misas Bezdin is not Doche Shabbos, so Kilu Shabbos is higher than Misas Bezdin, right? So we're saying that Avoda is higher than Shabbos, Shabbos is higher than Misas Bezdin, so certainly then Avoda should be higher than Misas Bezdin. Misas Bezdin should not be Doche Avoda. So Avoda, she Doches Shabbos, Avoda which is higher than Shabbos, and Udin Shalote Ritzicha Doche Osa, Misas Bezdin which is at the bottom of the chain, right? Avoda is higher than Shabbos, Shabbos is higher than Misas Bezdin. Certainly Misas Bezdin is not Doche Avoda. What about the pasuk though? The pasuk says the pasuk says specifically, don't allow a kohen who's a ritzech to do the avoda. Rather, take him to Bezdin, and there could be Misas Bezdin. So Misas Bezdin is Doche Avoda. What do you do with that pasuk? How can you make the argument that Misas Bezdin is not Doche Avoda? Hahu the korban yachid tzlo dochi Shabbos. That is by a korban yachid. Specifically, when the pasuk says mi'im tikachenu lamus, that is specifically for a korban yachid. Kilo on Shabbos you bring a korban tamid, korban musaf. But if I just want to bring a korban, hey, I'm feeling that I want to bring a korban to the Beis Hamikdash, I can't just bring that on Shabbos. That's not Doche Shabbos. So we say, okay, so a korban yachid, which is not Doche Shabbos, okay, so we could say, if the kohen is a murderer, don't offer a korban yachid. Rather, we're going to take it to Bezdin. There could be Misas Bezdin, would be Doche, a korban yachid. But a korban tamid, for example, or korban musaf, which is Doche Shabbos, of course it should be Doche, Misas Bezdin. And we would not stop a kohen who's a murderer from offering a korban tamid or a korban musaf, because offering that korban is higher than Shabbos, which is higher than Misas Bezdin. Misas Bezdin cannot prevent a kohen from doing those korbanos. Omar Rava, but Rava responds, but if that's the case, lo tehei ritzicha doche korban yachid. I could also make the argument though, based on that approach, that Misas Bezdin would not even be doche korban yachid, because says Rava, I can argue that a korban yachid is doche yomtiv, and therefore if a korban yachid is doche yomtiv, and yomtiv is doche Misas Bezdin, right? Just like on Shabbos, we just like capital punishment is not doche Shabbos, it's also not doche yomtiv. So I could so if you argue, obviously it's taka machlekes, but if you argue that a korban yachid is doche yomtiv, and yomtiv, right? So korban yachid is higher than yomtiv. Yomtiv is higher than Misas Bezdin. So then I can make the argument that Misas Bezdin is not even doche korban yachid. Right? Mikavachom ma yomtiv shenitchem mipnei korban yachid. Korban yachid is doche yomtiv. So korban yachid is higher than yomtiv. And ritzicha doche also, and yomtiv is higher than Misas Bezdin. So then certainly Misas Bezdin cannot be doche korban yachid. Korban yachid shu doche is yomtiv. Korban yachid, which is higher than yomtiv, and higher is yomtiv than Misas Bezdin, enodin shlote ritzicha doche also. So then, of course, Misas Bezdin cannot be doche even a korban yachid. Okay, so look, it's taka machlokes. If a korban yachid, an individual korban, is doche yomtiv. So according to the opinion who says that individual korbanos are not doche yomtiv, so okay, fine, beseder. So korban yachid is not doche yomtiv, so kav chomer is irrelevant, and you could say that Misas Bezdin is doche a korban yachid. But elamand amar nedarim nedav is craven b'yomtiv. But according to the opinion who says that nedarim and nedavos are offered on yomtiv, well then we can make the argument that individual korbanos are doche yomtiv. Yomtiv is high, right? Individual korbanos are higher than yomtiv. Yomtiv is higher than Misas Bezdin. So of course Misas Bezdin cannot be doche korban yachid. So ma'ikah lemeimar. Then what will you say? Because after all, there's the pasuk me'im is b'chitikachenu lamos. The pasuk says that there is a scenario where the kohen does not do the avoda, and instead there's Misas Bezdin. Now Misas Bezdin is doche avoda, but in which case? Elama Rava, rather says Rava, look. Okay, look, says Rava, look, at the end of the day, I'll tell you something. Certainly according to the man the Amr who says that individual korbanos can be offered on Yom Tiv, so then you're in trouble because if individual korbanos are doche Yom Tiv is doche Misas Bezdin, so Misas Bezdin is not even doche korban yochid. So what do you do with the pasuk of Mizbechi Tikachan Elamus? That's for sure a problem. But I'll tell you something. V'ado lo miskayim Mizbechi klal, because what do you do with the pasuk of Mizbechi Tikachan Elamus? But Ella afilu man dar min davos ein kreim b'Yom Tiv. Let me tell you a secret. Even according to the opinion who says that korban yochid is not offered on Yom Tiv, and therefore you're going to want to argue that Misas Bezdin is doche korban yochid, but not korban tzibur. Let me tell you something. The pasuk isn't talking about a korban yochid being doche Yom Tiv or not being doche Yom Tiv, right? It's not saying, okay, Misas Bezdin overrides korban nedavis on Yom Tiv. That's not what it's talking about. From my altar, the main korbanos that are offered on my altar. We're talking about the big stuff, the main stuff, korban tamid. Even a korban tamid is b'chiti kachan ulamas. That's the pasuk pshat, and the pasuk argues Rava. Now what the pasuk is saying is that Misas Bezdin is doche even a korban tamid. V'amar achmana me'imiz b'chiti kachan ulamus. That that Misas Bezdin is doche even a korban tamid, and that is that. Azoy. Okay, and that was the Lamed Hey of Masechta Sanhedrin. It wasn't particularly difficult until it got to like all the Kal V'chomers. Kal V'chomers are just like kind of generally complicated. But yeah, it was kind of interesting stuff. Peace out.